Hey everybody, it's Mike from Fish in the Mid-South, and talked in a previous video about testing the snoods for the mortician's rig. So what I'm going to do here is we're just going to use a circle hook and the no-knot snell. So we'll go around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Go 7 times because I can't count past 7. And we'll pull it up, pull it tight. And that is the no-knot snell. It's as simple as that. Then on the other end, I'm going to use a triple surgeon's loop. So we double the line over, create a loop here, and take the single loop and go through it 3 times. 2 and 3. Pull that tight. And we'll trim off the excess here. And so the reason that we're testing this, okay, so with a normal pompano rig, at some point in the line, they create a knot of some sort. So I'll just do a surgeon's loop here to give you an idea. So this would come off of the main line, right? So this is your main line going up and down, and then this is the loop coming off of it. And from there, they would stick in a circle hook and then make a cow hitch knot. So you kind of fold that over, put it through, then put the hook through that loop and pull it up, and you've got a cow hitch knot. The problem is, well, there's multiple problems. The first of which is, as most of you know, I spend a lot of time catfishing. Freshwater fishing, one of those is going to be catfishing, right? And in the catfishing community, whether it's right or wrong, not going to argue, there is a lot of talk about how when you tie the knot, it has to come back through the back to the front, so that as you pull it over something, then you've got that trigger action where it pulls against the back of the, or against the front of the eye, and sets the hook better. Now, there is a very widely held belief in the catfish community that is how it has to be done. If you do it from the other end, or if you tie on like just a Palomar knot or something like that, or in this case, a cow hitch knot, that you've lost a lot of the effectiveness and hook setting abilities of the circle hook. Again, I'm not here to argue that point. I'm telling you what the thought process is. Now, as I watched several different surf fishing and saltwater channels that use the pompano rig or any kind of similar double dropper rig, they use that cow hitch knot and they're perfectly happy with it. The idea with, is with a circle hook, you need to snell it, so it's pulling from the shank of the hook instead of the eye and all this. So you can go down a rabbit hole there for days. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But what this version gets you is it gets you that snelling of the hook. It also is going to give you a stronger knot. And then on the other end, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, just like we would do on the mortician's rig, right? We're going to go through like so. So it creates a cow hitch knot against the hook at the other end of my rig here. And let me get my hook out of that side for just a second so I can get my cow hitch knot created over here and get it tightened down. So this cow hitch knot on this end is going to actually go around, like say, the main leader line on the mortician rig between 2 of the knots that are in the main leader. Okay, so we got that done. Let's get this guy back in, and we are ready for the first pull of this test. And this is again using 20-pound Suffix Tritanium Plus line. That is sure I didn't knock my camera too far off kilter there. It's a copolymer line. So here we go with the first pull. $26.5. Now I have tested this no knot snell extensively, and I'm going to tell you right up front, it is a fantastically strong knot. If it's not as strong as the line, it is really, really, really close. And I don't mean the 20% or the 20 pound rating. I'm talking about the 31.5 that this line tested out to. So, of course, I don't expect any of the circle hook or any of the knots at the circle hook to break. I expect it always to be on the other end. And, of course, in that case, it was. So we're creating the cow hitch like we would have around the center of the mortician's rig. Now, obviously, the hook that is on this, the tester, and that looks like so. It's obviously a larger diameter than the leader will be. So it's possible that this will be a little weaker in that scenario, but I'm not really sure that's going to be the case, because typically the knot breaks right in here where it enters into that loop and not deeper into the loop. So here is test pull number 2. $26.7. One of my issues when doing these tests has been the lack of consistency in the strength. So 26.5 to 26.7 is pretty darn good. This is what I'm talking about. It always breaks right as we enter the knot. This is the tag end. It's very long because I didn't cut it off. Okay, let's get test piece number 3 set up here. Okay, got the cow hitch end of things going. And the reason I'm using this contraption with the sinker slide and such is because this is a small containment area, so that hopefully the hook doesn't go flying off on me. Test pull number 3. 23.3. And again, we broke right here as it enters the knot for the cow hitch side of things. Test pull number 4. $19.6. Ew. There's the broken knot. It is amazing to me how quickly I can lose a pin. 19.6. And then we'll get the last cow hitch in place. Zero the scale out, and here we go with the last pull, pull number 5. 20.4. So once again, consistency is not our strong suit, but we had a low of 19.6 and a high of 26.5. And if we try to put it all together, we tested the single overhand knot, the surgeon's knot, the figure 8 knot. And of those, the most consistent was the figure 8 with a low of 18.4 and a high of 20.1. So there's always going to be a weak point in whatever we do, right? So do we want the weak point to be the snoods, or do we want the weak point to be the main line? In the mortician's rig, you want it to be the main line. And the reason being, you've got, again, crude demonstration. Your main line's up here. There's your swivel that starts the mortician rig. You get your sinker on the other end, okay? So if this line breaks, it's going to break at this knot, this knot, this knot, this knot, or possibly down here at the sinker. In any case, you've lost your sinker. In the worst case scenario, you have lost both of your hooks and snoods and your sinker. Best case scenario, you've only lost your sinker. But if our main line is the main part of our leader is the strong point and our snoods are the weak point, then we're going to lose one hook, right? Unless we happen to double up and they break both of the snoods off, but that's not likely. Typically, we're going to catch one fish at a time on this, right? So we've lost one hook versus losing up to 2 hooks and a sinker. This also gives you ability to, because they attach with that cow hitch, and unfortunately all my cow hitches are broken, and this would be a much smaller loop here, but the cow hitch is basically just going to be like this, right? So your main leader is going to come through here, and then you can back that out, and you can pull it off, and you can change it and put a different snood on. And what that does for you is, let's say that you, when you build your pompano rigs, you know, there's multiple ways that you can build them. Most people are going to want everything in the bag ready to go, which means if you're using the little floats, you're going to have all the floats on there, you're going to have all the hooks on there, everything is going to be ready to go. While it has a cow hitch on the end of that attaches to the hook on your traditional pompano rig with the dropper loops, right? You can take that loop off and you can take the hook off and take off any of the jewelry you have with the beads or the floats or whatever, and change the color and whatever, or even change the hook and put it back on and you're set to go. With this, you can change the whole snood out. So there's nothing wrong with your snood. You just decided that, you know, the bead or the hook size or the hook style or the float color or size is wrong for you. You take this snood off, you put it back in the bag, or hang it on your little cutting board if you're using a surf cart, and you grab another one, you put it on, and that one's already going to have the hook and the float and the bead and all that fun stuff on it. So that's why I'm favoring the mortician's rig. I have not personally used it in surf fishing and have very barely used it in freshwater. I can't personally attest to how great of a rig it truly is. It has a lot going for it. I think it's going to be very interesting. I think it's also possible that you could eliminate 2 of those knots so that, I told you I can lose a pin in like a 1 second flat. There it is. So you could eliminate this knot and this knot. So what that means is that your first snood can only go down to this knot, and your bottom snood can only go down this knot. But your bottom snood can, in fact, go all the way up to this knot up here if it so chose. So you could run into the case of being able, of having more snags, that the hooks fouling each other. But it does take away some of those knots, and the knots are, of course, the weak point in those lines. So there's a lot that we've talked about here. I don't have answers. I'm not telling you I'm an expert. I'm not telling you I have the answers. What I'm doing is I'm providing you data. You can take that data and apply it as you see fit, which is what I've done at this point, where I'm talking about possibly pulling off, at the very least, because you've got a swivel up here, I can't imagine that you can't get rid of that first knot, because if it goes a little further up the line, who cares, right? The whole idea of this is to give the fish some amount of line to work with before it starts feeling resistance from the sinker or the main line. So if it can go up, even a foot, that gives you some more distance that fish can move with the bait before it starts feeling pressure. But on the other hand, you lose some of that sensitivity that you want, where you're going to have more contact with the bait at all times. A lot of information here to process, a lot of different ideas to think about, but I do think in this case, if we're going to be using the suffix tritanium, and I have to say this, and I'm probably going to get laughed at because maybe that's the way fluorocarbon feels. This suffix tritanium plus line, it almost feels, I can't explain the coating on it, but it feels like lotion. I mean, there's obviously, there's no, lotion on it. There's nothing, coming off. It feels a little, I want to say greasy, but there's no grease on it. It's just the way the line works. The reason I've even tried this Suffix Tritanium Plus is because I know that a lot of people are going to balk at the idea of not using a fluorocarbon line, or in this case, it's fluorocoated line, because clear line is, if it's mono, they can see it under the water, but if it's not, they can't. And again, that's more marketing, I think, than anything. Don't care. But I want to give different options. So no matter what I did, I would be using a 30-pound main line with the Mortician's rig and 20-pound snoods if I'm going to be going in that 20-pound range. And as you can see, with the circle hook, I'm still getting almost, at the low, I'm getting almost the rated strength on the line. And at the top end, I'm getting, about 4 pounds lighter, or 5 pounds lighter than the actual tested strength of the line. So it's not bad overall, especially if you've watched my other videos and you've seen those dropper loop rigs and how abysmally they performed in the strength tests. There is a playlist on my channel for line strength test, just the line itself, for knot strength test, for rig testing, and also for tutorials on how to tie knots, although I do admit I have sausage fingers, so maybe I'm not the greatest at the tying of knots on camera, but the information is out there. I want it to be available to you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have found this informative. If you have, please do like, subscribe, and all that fun stuff that makes YouTube think I am just the cat's meow. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day.